Jigawa State gets renewed hope with promise of greater Dutse water supply project.
Jigawa State government is seriously committed to the project, and also the president has given me his commitment to the project.
More electricity supply for Nigerians in the horizon as Minister of Power unveils prospect in the new year.
The National Bureau of Public Service Reform seeks establishment of right institutions to drive development.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall examine the role of community in security management.
All right, so for the past few days, we've been talking about peace and conflict. Now, while peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. Now, those are not my words, but that of, Ronald Reagan. That's one of the celebrated American presidents. And there are plethora of white sayings that we can leverage when we're dealing with conflict issues.
Absolutely clear. And Ronald Reagan was one of the best, according to Americans, president they ever had. And Greg Anderson also reminds us that the law of win-win is learning to do things not my way or your way, but rather by doing things the best way.
Absolutely. And the best way is simply learning to engage, speak, listen, hear, interpret, and respond constructively. Now, that way, we are able to leverage conflict rather than be leveled by it. Now, thanks again to Rundi and Flanagan.
Yes, and although the protection of lives, Claire, and property is a major concern for all communities, because they say security is everybody's business, we must be quick to add that the human race does not entirely thrive on struggle for survival, but rather on cooperation and creativity.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. But every conflict is local. In other words, conflicts are situated at the subnational levels and are triggered again by myriad of factors, namely economic issues, of course, poverty and hunger. There's ethnic. We also have political and other diverse needs of man. Now that means that every conflict has a communal linkage, and this underscores the importance of community, participation in peacemaking, peacekeeping, and peace-building mechanisms.
And English philosophers that we have, we have political and all that, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke propagated the concept of the community and its role in the protection of natural rights. Although their position on how to restore violated rights may seem extreme, security experts believe that modern conflict has become multi-dimensional and all-encompassing, and therefore would require a quantum leap in human relations. Man must learn new ways of living and interacting with one another. Otherwise, there would be a corresponding quantum leap in violent conflicts, Claire.
Yes, what else can I say? Absolutely there. Those white sayings speak to our reality, and recent events in communities across the country leave a sour taste on our taste buds. And in many communities, people now keep vigils instead of sleeping at night for fear of attacks, and it's becoming very frequent. Global Peace Index ranks Nigeria very low on that, and that indicates an exacerbated insecurity, especially in the southeast, northern and north central parts of Nigeria. Again, if we let you into section 215, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, a domicile security management within the state security apparatus. But again, feelings of alienation, injustice is now fueling what we now know as community-based unconventional security outfits. Like the vigilante groups and all that,
civilian
yes.
GTFs and all that, And available reports on renewed attacks in Plateau State, sort of suggest active collusion of some people within the communities. Now, this triggers the question of the role of the community in security management.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that will be our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today, and I warmly welcome you to the program. As always, I am Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak. But first of all, let me formally, of course we have met earlier on, but let me formally and warmly too welcome back to the set my sister and my colleague Jume Yusuf from a well-deserved annual leave or annual break. Jume, you're looking at me. I don't say anything.
I'm not saying anything. I'm back now. You can go. There's no one. Thank you, Claire. Indeed, it was a break well utilized, and I'm glad to be back. I'm bubbling to go. We're transmitting live on the network service of the NTA here in Abuja. In the course of the program, the usual review of newspapers will come up, but not before business news. We'll also be taking some happenings, peeping into the world of sports and development. There was a lot of sports during the weekend, and some wins and some losses. But now let's begin with the highlights of the morning news with Comfort Ahmadu. Hello, Comfort. Looking colorful this morning.
Good to have you back on set. Yeah. Good morning, Nigerians. I'm Claire. There's a renewed drive to accelerate delivery of reforms that will improve electricity supply nationwide as Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu unveils quick wins for the sector this year. Adelabu noted that in recognizing the critical role of electricity in economic growth, the initial 3 months on his assumption in office focused on diagnosis, stakeholder consultation and strategy formulation.
2023 now allows, in line with the 1999 Constitution as amended, that states may establish the legal, regulatory and commercial frameworks for their domestic electricity markets.
And the federal government has expressed commitment to work closely with the Jigawa state government in the execution of the Greater Duse Water Supply Project that defiled attempt by the previous administrations in the state. This is when the Minister of Water Resources, represented by Deputy Director Rural Water Supply, Habu Hassan, paid a working visit to the government house in Duse.
Greater Duse Water Supply Project is in the line item of Federal Ministry of Water Resources budget. And we are aware what His Excellency has been doing to make sure that more funds have been added to what we provided from the ministry.
The state government is seriously committed to the project, and also the President has given me his commitment to the project.
And for Nigeria to achieve a unified and equitable transformation, states must come on board the national reform train with establishment of the right institutions of government that will drive growth and development. The Director General, National Bureau of Public Service Reform, stated this while interacting with staff of the Bureau in Gombe State.
The direction and the directive of the President and Commander-in-Chief is for us to get all state governments to create their own bureaus of public service reforms. We want the states to key into the reforms, most especially around digitalization of our process.
Has come, in fact, with so many things we need to adapt so that we can reform our state. Already some of those things we have started, and we need to really build on it so that we can have a much stronger service delivery to the citizens of the state.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited is assuring the public that there is no imminent increase in the cost of premium motor spirit, PMS, commonly known as petrol. NNPC Limited urged Nigerians to disregard what it calls unfounded rumors and assures that there are no plans for an upward review of the petrol price. A statement by Olufemi Shoneye, Chief Corporate Communications Officer, NNPC Limited advises motorists nationwide against engaging in panic buying, reiterating that there is presently ample availability of PMS across the country. That's the news highlights. More on Good Morning Nigeria with Jumai and Claire after this break. Good morning.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and let's take some business news.
for easy access to made in Nigerian goods and services in regional and international markets, government is targeting the subnationals. These authorities concerned say will help achieve self-sufficiency in food production in the country, as farming will get value addition with the expected rise of new breed of entrepreneurs. This has helped the non-oil export to see an increase in export performance, foreign exchange earnings, and enhanced regional integration lately. Government is keen to sustain this for economic growth and production capacity with sustained efforts that will boost foreign direct investment.
On the hard infrastructure side, we're focused on providing electricity or power to industrial locations and hubs to ensure that our MSMEs have the right tool and equipment to encourage their production and processing. Also, on the hard infrastructure side, we're also improving routes to markets and to ports. In this regard, we are making necessary efforts to ensure increased productivity with a view of turning the country into an industrial hub and a destination for foreign direct investment.
This administration will focus on fiscal measures and business climate reforms to investing the political capital and resources required to actualize Nigeria's drive to boost non-oil exports by supporting our exporters of goods and services to grow their businesses and thrive, expanding to new frontiers and earning much-needed foreign exchange for the economy, to reshaping our nation's economy.
Industry players say Nigeria can implement industrialization and disruption of global value chain to shape the future of trade amid economic challenges. With Business News, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
All right, welcome back to the program, and you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service. Next is newspaper review.
Newspaper reviewer Chukwudi Okolubaje is here looking good on the new year. Happy New Year. What's new? What's trending?
Don't be too deceitful. Qatar.
Oh, maybe you ate too much pepper soup, too much meat, too much. You know, when you eat too much at times, you come up with some
I was parading the pronunciation of Qatar.
Qatar.
Not be Qatar. We are here. Let's go.
It's a Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Begin.
Hello, Claire.
Hello, Chukwu.
Morning.
Good morning.
When you look at me steadily for a long time, I begin to get suspicious.
You should be suspicious, actually. Now, let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. Just below the masthead, we have Chief Imam, Okada rider killed in fresh Plateau attacks. Find details on page 5. 35 billion fraud, EFCC malls, Sardias, arrest for shunning interrogators. Find the details on page 8. My successor plunged Nigeria into debt burden. As coming from former President Olusegun Obasanjo. The details on page 5. Fears over new petrol price hike. Marketers plot 1,200 naira per litre. And no need to panic. That's coming from NNPCL. You find the details on page 4. Kano government, 44 local government areas lock horns over funds for capital projects. Find details on page 10. NJC budget increased to 341.63 billion naira from 165 billion naira. You find the details on page 5. Ondo governor suspends local government caretaker chairman. Details on page 10. And the headlines in the Daily Trust newspaper. Robbers kill 4 in shopping mall near Abuja. With kickers, the first customers to lay flat on ground. That's coming from survivors. It was like a dream. Our operatives responded on time. Coming from the police. Claire.
Yes, okay. Let me quickly look at the leading stories on the front page of the Leadership. And again, it's also carried the report on the alleged pump price of petrol increase, and NNPC marketers are denying clash over that. It's the lead story on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. Now, debt pardon for African nations impossible. That's coming from former President Olusegun Obasanjo. And there are other stories on the front page. NIMET is warning pilots and asthmatic patients over the hazy weather condition on page 19. And Rivers Assembly, just a little above the nameplate there, Rivers Assembly issues disclaimer on Ehiye's resignation. And ex-minister Sadia Farouk shuns EFCC invitation. All right, I think that's yes, that's about
still in the Daily Trust newspaper. We have a picture story: buildings destroyed by Israeli bombardment in the central Gaza Strip from a position across the border in southern Israel. Yesterday, you can see the picture story of the destruction. Now, let's quickly go to the Vanguard newspaper, and above the masthead, high interest rate dries up mutual funds investment by 63.7% to 2.25 trillion naira in December. You find details on page 19. No apology for backing Diri's re-election. That's coming from former President Jonathan. End naira scarcity devaluation, rising inflation, TUC tells FG. Details on page 8. First under-17 World Cup winning coach Sebastian Broderick dies at 85. Find the details on page 31. And Hisba board seizes truck with 24,000 bottles of beer in Kanu. Details on page 13. Huge AFCON blow in Didi out. Yusuf in. Iheanacho doubtful. Find the details on page 31. And the headlines with the picture story in the Vanguard newspaper: reign of bandits, kidnappers, disquiet as terror attacks on Abuja Middle Belt towns continue. With riders, scores killed, many kidnapped. Gunmen storm shopping mall in Nasarawa, kill 4 shoppers. CP directs investigation into attack. Chief Imam Okada rider killed in fresh Plateau attack. Chukudi, not quite palatable stories in the papers this morning.
When did we actually have a series of palatable stories? And nobody is carrying a death wish about the slide to inhuman living, man's inhumanity to man. Is it drugs? I don't think it's unemployment. There are countries that have worse unemployment figures than Nigeria, where we don't have this level of violence. So what's responsible for this dog-eat-dog attitude? I keep on saying it's reorientation we need, national reorientation. What are our values? What do you think about the other man these days? Religiosity is brimming all over the place, yet we are seeing more and more crime. Who are we then? Let me not pontificate. Obasanjo says it's doubtful debt relief would come again. I don't see anything as impossible. If he has a grouse over the good work he and Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and other people in the finance, sector did to get all those, all the debt relief we received then. You remember the Bretton Woods and if he has something against that, he's free to speak up. But then some people are going to tell you, look, the debt that seemed to have accumulated after that singular effort by the former president, some of it came from the fact that there was COVID. Some of it came from the fact that there was a general slide in the world economy. But then mismanagement is not to be ruled out. So the question is, what are we doing to shore up our internal revenue generation capacity? What are we doing to plug holes? You just read now, EFCC traces, they are talking about the social investment,
I don't understand
program.
In this country.
Yes.
There's one question I want to ask you is, why must we wait when we know something like that is happening? Why must we wait until the person leaves office before we decide to call in the person? Why do we wait? In other climes, it's not like that.
The British and the Americans are not particularly more morally minded than us. In terms of etiquette, they do better.
Yes.
Because an American will meet you at an intersection and tell you, go, go, go. You say, thank you. You say, not at all, my pleasure. He allows you to use the road. He lets you get it. That's etiquette.
Yes.
It's not about being godly. But the point I want to make is that there are institutionalized checks on the excesses of human beings. We don't have those here.
No.
You know,
So people run riot in a loose system.
yes, you know, sometimes why people are not investigated while they are in office. You know, there could be several reasons, but one important factor is the fact that those who get implicated may also use the power of their office, you know, to disrupt investigations. So you discover that even while they are in office and investigations are going, it leads to nowhere. That's one. It could lead to nowhere.
That's because there are no institutions.
Yes.
There are things the United States president would not try.
You know, so when they are out of office,
won't even dream of it.
When, sir,
there are institutional checks.
Sir, when they are out of office, everything becomes glare. And maybe the next person also wants to prove a point. You know, I want to make it, I want to say, and begins to look into the books, you know, and these things come up.
Well,
with the case of the former minister, you know, a civil minister has been suspended.
Yeah.
The CEO of NSIP, Halima, and it is interrelated.
Yeah.
So she was invited by the EFCC, you know, to come in relation to that investigation. According to leadership, she had given her words to be available for the interrogation. But unfortunately, we don't know why she didn't, you know.
And we don't want to speculate on that. Because sometimes the newspapers themselves have to check a few things.
Exactly.
In fact, when I read something in a Nigerian newspaper, I give it 3 days to find out what I can verify of what has gone out.
It's a similar thing.
It's very important.
Similar thing.
Let's not pretend because we're journalists.
Yes. Yeah. Similar thing with the story on debt pardon for African nations, impossible on the front page of Obasanjo. And I must say that leadership puts impossible in quotes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so that we don't misconstrue.
Thank you so much.
Yes, misconstrue.
Very important.
Yes, very important.
Nothing is impossible in life.
Yes, because there was a proviso.
Except somebody hoping that they won't die.
Yes.
That's the only thing that is impossible.
Because former president said, due to the mismanagement of resources by African leaders after the forgiveness of previous debts, it will be almost impossible
for
them to get similar reprieve.
You're not granulating.
Yes.
That's very important.
Yes.
You know?
Because you know, but one good thing about this present administration and the body language of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is saying you must account while you're in office. You must be held accountable. Agencies, ministers and all that, and I believe that will put them on their toes, but still you cannot rule out the big elephant in the room, that is corruption that continues to rule.
We journalists, we make a point of not sounding too cozy with people who are in office.
Yeah.
But let me say this. President Ahmed Bola Tinubu is going to show a difference. Let me stop there.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like a sycophant. You are going to see that you can get certain things done without making too much noise about it.
Exactly.
Because eagle eyes are watching you all the time. It is a question of, I don't want to use the ASS word, it's your or mine. Is better is yours. You understand?
Yeah.
So he makes sure you do not mess up his name.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. And
because he has a name to protect.
Yes. He turned Lagos around.
Yes, he did.
Of course, there are whispers here and there.
With nothing from the
yes.
then.
I had to mention the man who led his internally generated revenue drive, Akinyelure, at a point. It was something eye-opening. How many states have adopted that approach towards making their states work?
Exactly. I was in Maiduguri recently when I was on leave, and I was losing my way. I was born and I grew up there, but I couldn't find my way around some areas in Maiduguri because of the development.
Oh, Maiduguri is changing as well.
My God.
Are you talking about, there are two names
Yes,
I
and I
talk
was,
here.
yes.
The NDLEA man's name,
Yes.
then I talk about
Baba Gana Umara Zulu, and you wonder,
when am I going to shake his hand?
Soon, but not say it's sort of at the bottom of the revenue, the money gotten from the FAC, from the federal government, and I wonder where he gets his money to do what he's doing, and other states are still crying and not paying salaries. Well, upon that, he's paying salaries, and Borno State, believe me, I lost my way many times.
There is
I had to keep going around, and I was
the
wondering,
attitude
is this the Maiduguri I used to know?
Is what is always
yes, yes.
All right, can we quickly, I thought Chukwudi, I thought you will correct me when I was cited. I said a 7 minister, but of course I corrected myself. I said the CEO.
This is what we do in broadcasting. There are some mistakes we don't announce.
Yes.
Make it style.
Make it style. Anyway, I needed to clarify that. But again, it is good news. I don't know to know that no intention of increasing the pump price.
Amen.
Yesterday.
Amen to that.
Yesterday,
I almost got a heart attack when I read it on the social media. 1,200. I'm going to park my car and start walking.
People were rushing to the petrol. Yesterday, I was on queue for almost 10-15 minutes, trying to get fuel. Because people started panic buying.
I envy you guys. You still have emotions that you can throw in that direction.
Come on.
I believe in
what
I meet.
Dead?
I believe in what I meet at the petrol station.
Anyway, but
because all these things you hear, you're asking yourself, who is sponsoring who to say some of these things?
There's no smoke without
Who
fire.
is doing that?
Chukwudi.
And whose interests are they pursuing?
Chukwudi.
The federal government says no. You are telling us, well, maybe somebody's testing the waters.
Chukwudi. What I can say from my perspective categorically is that I know there are no plans. At least federal government says it has no plans.
So believe the federal government.
Wait, subsidy is gone. That we know.
Permanent.
Subsidy is gone. But for increase in the price of petrol, okay. You know what?
I suspect Claire. You better watch her. She has become the spokesman of the Oil Marketers Association.
No. I'm telling you because they have said it.
There's no smoke without fire.
Who are
There's
they?
no smoke
Exactly.
without. In Nigeria, when you hear something, believe it because it's coming to competition.
Fine. We started hearing this when our darling Kingsley was there. Has it happened? Look, I am tired of people toying with my emotions.
Do you know that I had the World Bank is saying, look, the pump price of petrol must hit 800.
The World Bank said 720. And we said, is the World Bank going to understand Nigeria more than those who lead Nigeria? There is such a thing.
World market forces.
Exactly.
Which market forces?
And with the crisis in
anyway, they said we should round up.
Yes, so they should ask us to round up because we are actually making too much noise.
It will be good for us.
Yeah.
There is such a thing as national interest, whatever the World Bank says.
Chicks, the boy, just hold on. It will be good for us.
Yeah.
I mean, Jume and I, if we can just, drive into any petrol station and even buy it at,
if it's available.
Pro bono.
Chooks, thank you for coming. Good morning. We'll take a break now. When we return, good morning, Nigeria. Continues, don't go away.
And you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. And to kickstart our conversation this morning, let's listen to the background report put together by our correspondent Ibrahim and Amidu.
In recent times, diverse communities across Nigeria have faced numerous security challenges. However, the invaluable role of communities in security management have proven instrumental in maintaining peace and security where successes have been recorded. Local communities are often the first line of defense in detecting and reporting suspicious activities. They possess unique knowledge about their neighborhoods, enabling them to identify individuals who they do not belong to or activities that raise concerns. Through their active participation, communities serve as important eyes and ears for law enforcement agencies. Moreover, community members should contribute to security management by establishing and supporting neighborhood watch groups. Communities in Nigeria are integral to security management. Their active involvement combined with effective collaboration with law enforcement agencies, ensures a safer environment for everyone. And when communities are resilient, engaged, and supported, they become formidable allies in the fight against crime. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will elaborate on the crucial role communities play in maintaining peace and security by evolving into proactive and impenetrable people.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and to begin our conversation, guests are already seated. And we have in the studio Professor Etanibi Alemika. He just corrected me, actually, Professor of Criminology. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning,
I have to work on that name to get it right. Yes.
Thank you. Morning.
Yes, Claire.
Yes, all right. And we also have here in the studio Lawrence Alobi, retired CP and lawyer. We're glad to have you with us again, CP Alobi. I think we haven't seen this year, have we?
Oh, that was a few days ago.
Yes.
Yes.
Before the New Year.
Before the New Year.
Before the New Year.
Yeah, for the New Year.
It's good to see you.
It's a pleasure. Good to have you too.
Yes. I mean, Happy New Year to both of you.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Jube.
Yeah, we will be joining another guest in Kaduna in due time when he comes on air. Brigadier General Mohammed Kabir Galadanchi, Public Affairs and Security Analyst and Consultant. He will join us in the course of the program while the program is on. Now, Claire, you give the first shot.
All right. The basis for our conversation this morning, gentlemen, of course, we know what has been happening, within the past few, weeks in different parts of the country, and so it's become the norm now to have community-based, security support groups in the form of vigilante and all that. But let's just begin with conceptual clarification, Professor Etanibi. What do we mean by community-based, interventions in security management, and why is it necessary?
Thank you that we are starting with the conceptual clarification. First, the concept community. What constitutes community? We must understand that community vary in terms of their structure, in terms of their size, in terms of their interest. So you could actually have a community in an urban area which is equivalent to a neighborhood. That means people resident in a particular neighborhood of the city. And then, of course, they do have common interest of a peaceable living within those neighborhoods. And, of course, they can contribute to structures that can also make that possible. You can also have communities in the sense that we often use them as villages in the rural areas, in which, of course, we're talking about people who are bound together by ancestry, by some measure of homogeneity in values and the rest of it. And so differences in urban area, the community in urban area may be heterogeneous, while in the rural area, they are homogeneous. And that is what we are dealing with. So there's elements of territory, the elements of people, the elements of some norms and interest binding them together. If it is in the rural communities, you may also have an important addition of institutions. So that's what we call communities. Incidentally, both of us are sociologists to start with, and we all have some interest in, he spent his life policing. I spent my life, about 40, teaching, about crime and law enforcement. So, but communities is important. And when you're talking of community-based initiative, first is the challenge in Nigeria. We've seen the proliferation of community-based entities, which there are two reasons people are, attribute to that. One is that, police have failed, so communities have evolved those mechanisms. That's only partially true. The whole truth is that yet police, and it's not about Nigeria, globally, police can no longer police everywhere and will require more, returning to its founding situation in which everybody is a police. That's where police started. Everyone was a police until people now become specialized and begin to pay some people to police for them. So we're gradually returning to situation where first the difference between public and private space are blurring. At a limited level, if you go to Jabi Lake, is that a private space or a public space?
It's a public space, shouldn't it be?
But it's privately owned.
Yes.
So you're finding this blurring in terms of, if you go to Jabi Lake, you find a lot of private policing to police the private dimension of that property. But that property is located on the public space. You are also trying to police that. So these are the things that are also bringing community-based initiative, not just on the basis of police failure alone. We are finding that there's a beginning to find, a merger of the private and public in terms of mass spaces. So in Nigeria, of course, this community initiative, which has always been there, had been accelerated in the past 2 decades. It's not just recently. In fact, if CP Alobi will remember, in the 80s, the police actually had provided some guidelines for the operation of community vigilantes in the second half of 80s. So these are not new phenomena. It's just that population has risen. Police are not recruited in the number they are required to have recruited, and they have not been also resourced to use scientific process and aids to aid their policing. So there are various issues that
they still operate based from traditional.
Traditionally, and with inadequate, because police now is becoming a merger of men and technology. We are neither adequate on manpower, neither are we even using technology. And these are challenges. But let me warn, community-based initiative can be very good, but they can constitute also danger. Because of accountability.
Yes. Mr. Lawrence Alobi, I will be coming to you, but let's introduce our guest in Kaduna, Brigadier General Mohammed Kabir Galadanchi, Public Affairs and Security Analyst and Consultant. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Our guest in Kaduna, Brigadier General Mohammed Kabir Galadanchi, Public Affairs and Security Analyst and Consultant. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. You are welcome.
Okay, Mr. Lawrence, we're still talking about conceptual, clarification, on communal, security. Growing up, we knew that security was everybody's business. If something happens, if there's a little thief in the village, before you know it, he has been, found out. And, the very foundation of a nation begins from the community itself before it extends to rural areas and then the urban areas. And what is happening? What happened to that value system of communal friendship, communal relationship, where people look out for each other, when it comes to security? What happened along the way that we sort of seem to have lost it completely? Policing shouldn't be left to the police alone, don't you think?
Yeah, even before the advent of the colonial battles in Nigeria, we had traditional methods of policing, like the age grade, for instance. The age grades, the vigilante. Everybody was concerned about the safety of the community. And mostly in the southeast area in particular, which I know the age grade system is very prominent, they were used to guide the communities. And if any strange person is seen within the community, they were allowed the chief, and the person would be invited to be for questioning. And you see, modernization and globalization has actually caused a lot of damage. There are some advantages in globalization and modernization, but some also have come to bastardize our values and our values, our core values, moral values. You see, discipline is core. Like my place, people will say that, there's an adage in my place that an okra, however tall an okra is, even the planter, the farmer is as short as this, he can bend the okra to its level to plug the okra. That a child, however big a child is, can be disciplined by the parent. But this parenting is no longer there. People are all the right race, pursuing money and power, no guidance and counseling. They don't counsel their children. The moral values have been bastardized. We don't care about what we go after with concern about is how to grab power and also get money. For them, we think that money is the ultimate. Money and power is the ultimate for man, and that is one of the reasons for today why you have this what they call the
the Yahoo boys, because the Yahoo boys, because they don't want to work again hard at this time. In those days, hard work is seen as a virtue. We want to work hard. We want to, even in school, in university, we never saw the houses. We never visited lecturers in their homes. We only see our result on the board when it is published, and we didn't buy handouts. But today, it's everywhere. The whole system is systemic, because our moral values have been bastardized in the name of modernization and globalization. And if we know that there's a difference between the Western culture and the African culture. African culture we are communal in nature. Yes. We believe in the extended family system. Yes. But the Western are individualistic. Like for instance, there's no way. My mother is 100 years. I cannot take him to old people's center. I will take care of my mother or my father. So these are the communal life that existed in the community amongst us, who has been bastardized. Feudalism, greed, materialism, and so forth. That's why today, rather than we are trying to strengthen those moral values that bind us together, they have all been bastardized. Both have been bastardized, and now everybody's onto himself. We are so individualistic, so materialistic. And then in terms of security, you see, nations are built on law and order. And we also, they see in the theory of law, that there are three principles of law. The law is based on supremacy of the law is supreme. Equality before the law. And law have a universal application. Law is not restrictive, for these people have to obey this law, for these people, this for these people. Law has universal application. That's what they postulated. And then you see, the value of law is predicated on its enforcement. A law that is not enforced is no value to man and society. And when there's laws like you talk about, the Latin maxim says, ibi jus be societies. That whatever is society, must be law. And law is meant to guide the conduct and behavior of the citizens, of the people, for the overall interest of the society, public interest and public security. But look at today, for instance. Nigerians, how many of us are willing to obey the law? Just go to Abuja here in the traffic light, stand in the traffic light and see, and there for 10 minutes, you see. People break traffic light. Even the law, we don't obey laws. And that is one of the first primary way the citizens can contribute to security. Section 24 of the Constitution provides that the constitutional duty of every Nigerian citizen to assist law enforcement agencies, law enforcement agencies in maintaining law and order. But in Nigeria, we're talking about our right, my right, human right. Nothing about what are the obligations of the citizens. LaRoche, in his theory of a constitutional contract, postulated, the citizens have to forgo some of their rights for the state to get them to provide security. Now, when you get to a traffic light and you wait patiently, you are sacrificing your time, which you need to want to rush, because that inculcates you that in line with Roche's theory of social contract. You obey the law, and when you obey the law will protect you, and when you don't obey the law, will not protect you. So, because in Nigerian teacher we believe that mostly our leaders don't obey law. We see like when I never ever beat traffic light, even though I was in service. I must obey, because if I'm a law enforcer, I should obey the law to be able to enforce the law. Because if I don't obey the law, I don't have any moral courage to arrest someone who disobey the law. But see our leaders, they break the law. Do you know whom I am, and so forth. So our laws have not been, our citizens have not been obeying the law. They don't obey the law. And that's one of the ways they can contribute towards security and peace. When you obey the law, it makes society safer and protected.
Okay, let's thank you for the points that you have enunciated. Let's put you on hold and bring in Brigadier General Mohammed Kabir Galadanchi, who is also a public affairs analyst and public affairs and security risk analyst. Brigadier General Galadanchi, thank you once again for joining us. And we talked about community-based security outfits emanating as a result of gap in policing, by the police. But we know that section, I think 215 subsection 3 of the Constitution, as amended, domiciled, security, the protection of lives or provision of security, within the domain of the security apparatus in Nigeria, how would you evaluate the supportive role of the emerging community-based security outfits in conflict management?
So much. Let's first look at it. Let's look at the issues at hand. Just recently, the Chief of Defense Staff, General C.G. Musa, said that to deal with security challenges, only about 30% of the work is done by the military or the security agencies. 70% is done by other players. And I want to say that more than 50% of these players are the citizens that contribute to either the security itself or insecurity. But the real problem is we have a misperception. Yes, agreed, the situation we are here, now we need to have this vigilante group and other groups, this and that. But it is not the main issue. For some of us that are over 60 years old, we knew that during our days when we were young, the community is a need, a society where people know who are their neighbors, they report whatever they see to their traditional rulers, they have a lot of interactions that they have. But today, unfortunately, the society, like the professor said, is big, is wide, there are a lot of other things, but we still have to think about how members of the community will contribute in reporting and containing some of the things that we see that cause this insecurity. For instance, you will be driving in the night, 10, 11 o'clock in the night, and you see a vehicle carrying firewood or something going into these small communities. And nobody is checking those things. Nobody is asking. And technologically, let's take the case of the woman who killed her husband in Abuja. It was the closed circuit camera of a neighbor that actually gave the credence or the real evidence that probably might have caused the person. So the issue is that for the community to be able to assist in curtailing these security problems, there must be a system that will help or assist in reporting some of the things that are happening to either the traditional institutions or the police themselves or to any other agency that is responsible. I remember just in in December, early December, we undertook a visit to the federal capital. And we went to a community and we were briefed on how the community, the traditional institution, has organized the community in such a way that nobody comes into that community without the police being informed within 24 hours of the person being in that community. People should understand that as much as government has responsibility for security, their responsibility of establishing, their responsibility starts with the establishment of the police and giving them all the necessary equipment to work. But you cannot have police in every man's house. And these policemen are Nigerians. The soldiers are Nigerians. The staff of the Department of Security Services are Nigerians. So unless we support them and unless they are sincere with us, then we are not likely to have a solution to this. But people must understand that if you are in a society, like they say, when you see, you must say something about it. If you don't say something about it, it is going to overcome and overtake you. Secondly, a lot of us in the communities, a lot of crimes are being committed, and the people who commit these crimes are left to go along, to go free with it, because somebody will say, this is the son of so-so person, let's protect ourselves, let's protect the person, this and that. They don't know that they are encouraging other people to go into those criminal activities. So, in essence, the whole of it is that for the society to be secured, there must be a system whereby when you see something, you must say something. And the traditional institutions, especially the traditional institutions, all over the country, I've been in the east, I've been in the southwest, I've been everywhere in the north. There's traditional institutions, the Bale, the Meungwa, this and that. They have to change their attitude and be people that are respected by the community, because a lot of them don't give anybody confidence to be able to tell them something, because these are people that can take money from other people just in order to cover up things. So we really need to have a society where those who are in a position of authority in the local communities show empathy, and so that people will believe in them, and whatever they do, they will be able to go back to them.
Thank you very much for those points, and I'm glad that you touched on the issue of the traditional rulers themselves. Professor Etanibe, the general retired, talked about community-based outfits, providing what we may call the early warning signals. But in actual fact, the responsibility is much deeper, and the scope of, the community-based outreach also wider. But why is it that at the layer of the traditional, institution, we seem to have neglected that aspect? People don't seem to have confidence, in decisions, in the authority of the traditional, rulers anymore. Why is that so?
Thank you. When we're talking about community, I'd say there's a territorial dimension of community. There is the interest aspect. One interest, for example, quickly is, in many countries, you find what we call the central business district. In Abuja, you have the central, where usually it's a business area, where the business community in the central area would decide they want to aid security. And one of the things they do is they insist, if government has not done so, to put CCTV, General mentioned the use of CCTV, to have CCTV mounted on all their buildings and service area as their own contribution to policing. So the community itself can be interest-based, can be territorial. It can also be normative, and that's where the traditional rulers come in. Tradition, culture, religion. This tripod constitute the normative community, which ideally should, from childhood, provided some of the issues that Commissioner Alobi reported to, lawful behavior, conformity, and the rest of them. But unfortunately, both these institutions that we're talking about, the first, religious institutions, traditional institutions, and the culture that they are supposed to propagate, themselves are in crisis in Nigeria. So that is why there is nothing like, say, we automatically go to community as a solution. There is no community there that is worthy of the kind of vision of a safe Nigeria we are talking about. They are all problematic.
Why is that so now? What has led to that state?
Well, a historical dimension has taken place. I think Alobi referred to some of the global one of colonialism. If you go back to colonialism, where some of your institutions were regarded as inappropriate by the colonizers, and the structures demolished or destroyed. And it's been difficult for us to think through it because we've not paid attention to cultural revolution in Nigeria particularly. In some countries to develop, they had to talk about cultural revolution after colonial rule. We've not done that in Nigeria to tease out some of our traditions and those that, of course, can enhance development, enhance security. Of course, there is nothing static about them. There are those that in better understanding, we know we didn't have to have those kind of traditions.
But regardless,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but regardless, there are still parts of this country where that layer of conflict resolution is still being used. For instance, if you go to the Niger Delta, if you go to the Southeast still have this, the village, setting where conflicts are resolved, the obese and the traditional rulers preside over, issues, and they are resolved.
You also said that
yes,
the issue of
the age group,
respecting
yes,
the traditional rulers
Yeah.
because if it still exists in the East, what we have in IPOP will not be there.
No,
Yes, because if they listen to the traditional rulers, because we've seen in the news the Obi of in Chad also coming out to say the stay at home is not right, people should go out to do their business, but still the value system that we have has gone down the drain.
Yeah, and I think that is, we still have forms.
Yes.
But the substance are gone.
Yes.
Okay.
You can still have, how did these people become even traditional rulers? Don't we go to court to debate the legitimacy of particular traditional rulers and all those? That's why I said we're actually dealing, and I think Alobi alluded to this. I have argued in the recent times that Nigerian crisis is a value crisis.
Yes.
And until you resolve the value crisis, you are not going to solve any problem. And we don't want to confront it. Everywhere you go, the values that are upheld. Go to churches, go to mosques. What are the values? Materialism has taken over.
Yes.
There is no concern for the poor. It is the rich that is promoted. You go to traditional institutions. Who do they give traditional titles? Take the Hausa culture, for example. Yeah. Which is, probably relevant to other culture. Almost everybody in society is represented in the council.
Yes.
And that is why you find even for, people living with disability have their head represented. The hunter have their, but we have now monetized all these and say your worth is the money you have. These are part of the crisis, the normative crisis. And I link this, is like computer. What drives the computer is not the machine you see, is the software.
Yes.
Software value is the software of society. Once the software is corrupted, you can never get a good product. And unfortunately, many of the institutions we want to rely on, are already corrupted. So whether we're in a very complex situation, but I still believe also that we don't need, what are the causes of this insecurity in itself? And I think it's scarcity. I think we'll come to that. Because insecurity is a symptom. It has a cause.
Yes,
when you have an unproductive society, characterized by inequality and impunity as we have in Nigeria today, you're going nowhere. You're going nowhere. Even if you have every household having a security personnel, they will destroy themselves in that household. So
is the traditional layer, is it also responsible for that? Because I know within the conflict resolution mechanism, you have the peace building, which involves, of course, the interventions you put in to address some of these issues, economic issues, poverty, deprivation, lack, and all that. Isn't that part of what the government should be doing?
Yeah, you are back to government now, not community.
Well, you know,
we'll come to that. Let's bring in. Let's bring in. Let's bring.
No, that's why I think also the discussion is not community or government.
Yes.
We are dealing with
the society
in which there are different actors that must do their own bid. The commissioner alluded to traffic. When I was coming with my grandson, virtually every traffic area, almost everybody did not stop on the red.
Because it's early morning.
They believe the law does not apply until it is 8 o'clock in Abuja.
Yes.
I don't live in Abuja, and that is one of the first things I saw ridiculous in Abuja, that their lawful behavior is not that they want to behave, it is where the security agencies are already out to stop them.
That they behave.
Yeah, that they behave. So this voluntary compliance meant there has been something that is wrong right from the family about your identity. So we need, before community, to talk about the family. What is the family value today? How much do we have time to inculcate in the children what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what we regarded as the minimum identity for your family? When I was going to Kaduna for the first time as a kid from Lokoja, one of the things my parents told me is that whatever happened, come back home. Don't disgrace us. When my children go to school, I tell you, if you're going to fail an exam, you don't cheat, come home. You'll be accepted. But if you cheat, you're on your own.
You're on your own, yes.
So you must have a minimum family value. And then, of course, the aggregation becomes the community value. The aggregation of community value becomes a national value.
Yes.
So it is this process that has been broken, in which instead of accepting that something is wrong, we justify it on the basis, is it the only person who has done it?
Is it the first person who has done it?
I think that weakens everybody, that terminology. And I think that's the kind of national orientation agency should be taking up. This kind of, is he the only person? Those cliches, and I think can unravel many of the problems. Or you tell somebody, this is an excellent LOB, when he was in service, out of service, now we go chop. I think this we need to begin to unpack.
How security help us? That's the question people ask.
Yes, so we need to begin to unpack that money is not the end. Because when they say now we go chop it, how is he living? Where he came, he was in a Hummer, he came in a rickety car, now we go chop. So you say he was honest. So who chops honesty? But there are instances where those are the things we need. Without it, you can't develop. So I think that's the kind of broad partnership between government needs to create environment for productivity. Nigeria is not producing. Let nobody tell you a lie. Nothing is going to improve soon until you have industrialization, until you have manufacturing, until you begin to deal with this real sector, agriculture. If you are dealing with called financial sector, nothing will change. Let no one deceive us. We're in a critical situation. We need to start with value. We need to be productive. The parasites need to be dealt with.
Exactly, Elamic, Professor Etenebi. Thank you so much. Talking about industrialization, agriculture, and so they say the devil's workshop is an idle mind. Engaging Nigerians, keeping them busy is what the community needs right now. Okay, still talking about security, Mr. Lawrence Alobi, and confidentiality. If you see something, say something. People have gone to tell the police or the traditional rulers of things happening in the community, but they feel they are not protected. Staying in Maiduguri during the Boko Haram crisis, I've seen people who have reported, Boko Haram in their communities. At the end of the day, a family I know were almost wiped out when the information got to the Boko Haram insurgents that they were the ones that gave the information before the insurgents. Some of them were arrested and some of them were killed. Confidentiality is very important when it comes to security. Has that been maintained? Can people go confidently to the police office or to the traditional to tell him that this is what I see happening and be safe? People are afraid to do that.
You see, security is like democracy. It's participatory in nature and it's people needs driven. And the people themselves, talked about the tripartite or tripod. The society, the citizens, the government and security agencies. You know, so the security should be inclusive and participatory. And that is because who are the prime beneficiary of a secure and safe environment? It's citizens.
Yes.
So they're also obligated, you know, like Section 24E provided, I quoted earlier, it is their concern to assist security agencies maintaining law and order. Not only maintaining law and order, for instance, like equipment, for instance. Like there are some police divisions who don't have a vehicle, patrol vehicle. How can they respond to distress calls? Maybe there's a crisis, why can they move in there? They cannot. So the government has a role to provide, in line with Section 14B of the Constitution, which says that prime purpose of government is the welfare and the security of the citizens. But you see, security is in the exclusive list, which of course the federal government acts to, under the domain of the federal government. But some state governors, I can say with some empirical facts, they'll say, oh, they don't have control over the commissioner of police, the security is under the exclusive list, federal government. But they sworn oath of office, at the governor's oath of office, to uphold and respect the Constitution of Nigeria. So that attitude of some of this, they want Commissioner of Police Security Chief to go and be cap in hand to bring to solicit and beg for.
But the governor is the chief security officer of the state.
Yes, but they believe that because they don't control the Commissioner of Police, therefore that chief security officer is only by name. But you see, they have taken an oath of office to uphold and respect the Constitution. And Section 14B says that the prime purpose of government at all levels is security and welfare of the citizens. So like I said, security is participatory in nature. The citizens themselves community should be involved. Community are the prime beneficiary of a secure environment. There should be that symbiotic relationship between the citizens and the public. The police need the public, the citizen needs the police. But like you talk about information, it's a lacuna. The lacuna is that deficit, trust deficit that exists between the police, which is the primary, the lead agency in internal security. Because, you know, and that has that trust, lack of trust, is historically based in the sense that we look at how the Nigerian police and modern police evolved from the colonial era, which was repressive policing, human rights were abused. So the people saw the police as agent of government against the people. And that is that the people who are alienated from the police were alienated from the people. They saw the police as agents of the government against the people. And we're not too long we had independent. The military came on board. Military ruled by decrees, immediate effect. All constitutional institutions were all dismantled, the National Assembly and so forth. And they also introduced militarized policing. We have colonial policing, which is repressive, then brought about militarized policing. You know, the laws are no longer obeyed, human rights are no longer obeyed. So the police have now been also alienated from the citizens. And the citizens, they saw the citizens, their loyalty is not to the government and not to the citizens. But when they now see, if people feel that they trust you, when you are loyal to them, you are there for their interests, protect their interests, to meet their security needs, they will trust you. That's confidence building. So the police had to reinvent itself by winning the hearts, the minds and hearts of the citizens for effective policing. The police are so far from the citizens. You see, when I used to be a PRO as a DSP in Enugu, you know, Mrs. Carroll, Elizabeth Carroll of British Memory, was the director of news in Enugu, had a program I used to do every Thursday, 30 minutes every Thursday. Because that program, police were no longer paying for transport in Enugu, public transport in Enugu. Because I made the people to understand that the police is there to assist you, to help you, to protect you. They now saw it in them. And the police also made in that character, the attitude of a single policeman can mar or add the value of the image of the police. So the police themselves have not been given that orientation. That orientation, they know that we are here to serve the people. Police is service-oriented. It's not like this issue of corruption, indiscipline, not supposed to be there. Because those values are not being inculcated in them. So the police themselves need to reinvent themselves and give that confidence. The citizens can have confidence in them. Or when I give information to the police, I will not be seen to not be attacked, or the information will leak to unauthorized persons due to lack of information management. So the thing is that the police itself need to reinvent itself. And the citizens also know that they also need the police, and the police need the citizens. That's it. And if the citizens support the police and assist the police are effective. And when the police are effective, the citizens benefit. So, you know, the citizen engagement, like I said, is not only limited to information. For instance, the government has only the competitive needs, health, education, infrastructure, and so forth. So the system themselves don't need to assist the police in terms of, there are some police in Nigeria that don't have police patrol vehicles. The citizens of that day, the community can build police stations, provide vehicles, even they can even display some filling stations. Okay, police vehicles at some time becoming filling from the filling station, and that's how to support, because they are the one to benefit. It's not the one to benefit. Even the security now, it is citizens that are going to suffer. So, like about again, how do we respond to information that is given to us? Look at what happened in Jos. We are told that there were two information. There was that intelligence information that they will attack, with that tactical attitude of responding to information, based on the theory of the broken windows. The broken windows is that if you don't repair one window that is broken, it might snowball to more windows being damaged, being caused. That's what happened in Jos now. Because they didn't respond to information that was given to them promptly, and now it has now led to a lot of the damage, massacre of over almost 200 persons, and that is not good enough for the country.
Okay, CP, I also like us to understand that we're looking at this community, the role of community-based security outfits from the perspective of de-escalating conflicts. You know, I mean, curbing it before it escalates, yes. Before it's you know engulfs more people, and this was what used to happen. You know, in the olden days, you know, before the coming of the white man, once, you know, there are issues or there are challenges, those challenges are resolved, you know, within the community. But now,
proactiveness.
Yes. Nowadays, people will prefer to go to the court before, you know, and that's why the court systems are congested. A lot of people just seek legal redress, boom, they, you know, or take up arms, you know, themselves, rather than, you know, dialoguing, rather than looking for mediatory, you know, measures and all that. And I'm asking, within the process of conflict management, Brigadier General Geledanchi, how can we reverse, you know, this trend and restore that value where people have confidence in going to the traditional institution, you know, to get justice?
Thank you very much. We are having a bit of an audio problem, but what I understand is this lack of confidence from what we are discussing. And essentially, the community contribution is being hampered by this lack of trust. Let's start from age group, where you have, like in the eastern Nigeria, where you have an age group where they have leaders and whatever. And you have a situation whereby money is being contributed and the leaders of those groups are eating money. And so nobody has confidence in who to tell what is happening. When you come to the traditional institutions, at the local level, the smallest level, Meungwa in the north, or in the southwest, somebody who is, if they go and collect money from people, sell their lands, this and that, so people don't have trust in those people. The religious leaders, the church pastors, the imams, that people are supposed to, when they see something, to come and tell them and get their input, and they expect them to take the things outside. They don't have trust in them because they believe that even if they tell them something, they are going to tell the people if they are going to get something from them. So the issue is that before we can achieve anything, we must be able to create that trust between the ordinary citizen and their so-called leaders at local level. And that is why today we are always complaining that our police are not doing what they are supposed to do, or our security agents, you are afraid of telling them because you think they are going to expose you to risk and other things. But it is not only the police. That your friend that you have confided in, that you are going to tell the police, why are you not accusing him? Why are you accusing the police? So the question is, what can we do within the community to create confidence and trust within ourselves so that everybody will feel that he can be able to report what he has seen, and that thing action will be taken on it, and at the same time you are protected because you trust the person you are going to. But other than this, the police cannot do anything. Nobody can do anything. The vigilante we are having today, well, because of the circumstances, we can say there is a need for them. But when you go out, 90% of those people who are recruited into the vigilante service, there are people who don't have any work to do. And vigilante service is not a service that is supposed to sustain a human being. It's supposed to be a voluntary service. So at the end of the day, if we overcome some of these challenges and these people they don't have anything to do, what do you think they are going to do? Because they have learned how to use weapons, they terrorize everybody. So we have to find other means of supporting government in dealing with these security challenges. Like I said from the beginning, you in the middle of the night, you will see a bus coming into a community, a small community like, let's say, Barakallahu in Kaduna. You will see a bus coming in at 12 midnight, and they are claiming they are bringing in firewood or charcoal or some other things. They might be moving arms. Nobody is checking them. The same vigilante will be seeing them and they will be clapping with them and this and that. Things are dumped into those societies. Vehicles, people will be abducted and be brought into the smaller societies. And you see a vehicle that has not been coming into that place, coming in and you allow it. So we really need to change our psyche. It is for the government to provide the normal security outfit, the police to be given what they need to work, the DSS, they need to be given what they need to work, but the society has to sit down and see how they can be able to create a conducive atmosphere for their society to be secured.
Major General Mohammed Kabir Galadanchi, thank you. You've raised some issues that we'll come back to when we return from this break. Don't go away. You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're discussing the role of the society in security management in the country. And but all our guests in the studio have been, harping on one issue, that is the value system of the society, its importance to security. And one other issue, Professor Alemeka, I'm coming to you, is the traditional institution itself and its relevance, its powers. Because we've seen the situation where the traditional institution is bastardized by the government of the day, where a traditional ruler can just be unplugged and removed because he does not work, in line with the government in power. And how does that disrupt the society itself? How does that disrupt the trust of the people in the traditional institution itself? If a traditional ruler can just be removed at the instance of a state governor, how confident are you that you can go to him and lay your complaint and your complaints will be addressed? Let's look into that.
Yeah, I think, again, we are back to colonial rule.
Yes.
And like I said, many institutions were either transformed or restructured during colonial rule. And traditional institution had been one of them, both during colonial rule and since colonial rule. So you find that during colonial rule, all kinds of chieftaincy arrangements were created. And since they became creation of government, they also suffer certain vulnerability. Take many of the big titles I don't want to offend some ethnic groups, in the middle belt or the north central states, were colonial creations, though they parade themselves as if they were part of God-given creation of the 6-7 days creation story. But they were colonial creation. And so people don't really look at them as something indigenous. They still look at the clan head. So there are a lot of distortion about even what we are calling tradition rulership. But let's look at, say, way by which communities are governed. And I think the model we have in our mind is the rural communities. We need to understand the structure of even a community in the traditional sense. You have clan head, family head, clan head, before you get to the community level. So you almost have a 3-tier level of which something happens. So if there is some issue, you report your family head. Your family head tried as much as possible to resolve. All the information you provided will be used at the clan level. The clan level, the community is made of maybe several clans. You get to that level again, the traditional head of the clans have some information to bring them together. So whether in a preventive way to prevent crises or in a way to address it. Now, let's give a practical example. You have a community and there is mining going on with many clans. Because let's be practical about this, for example, and they go to one of the clans and they give them money. He does not feel obliged to the traditional ruler. He will say, it's in my own clan. I think in our villages we are seeing that. They will say it's that family alone. But when the insecurity comes, it's not going to affect that family alone. So it is this weakening of some of this thread, that bind us together, even at the community level, that is weakened as a level. The other level is, how do you use this to generate information to prevent? And examples are, whether at a community level, whether in the neighborhood or in the town, is, I think the word participation has come. How do we select some groups of reputable character in community that can serve as eyes and ear of the community? That before something happens, they get that information and they can call together the those people who are grieved and those seen as sources of their grievances to bring them to record. Those were part of the traditional system of preventing crises and resolving crises. I think we have problem with those ones now because that cannot function the way they used to, and we need more of conceptualization of the relation between the police and traditional mechanisms. I don't think Alobia and I had done enough in that respect. The community don't want the supervision of the police because of the trust deficit we're talking about. The police, of course, have not even developed frameworks that they can sell to the public and say, look, let's work together. I know they've...
That's the reason why we're looking at the community.
Yeah, so there had been experimentation, for example, again in the past. It's not for lack of try, where police will say, okay, you are not supposed to carry weapons, but we will give you a constable or a corporal who is carrying a weapon to patrol with vigilante in the night. In times where they've tried this, the community don't want the police there. Because they also play some arbitrariness. Because every community is also made up of prejudices. And the police is supposed to have a universal attitude that we can't discriminate between A and B. And the community don't want those ones also. They don't want that to remove. So there's a lot of tension and a lot of work to be done. So community obviously can play a role, but we must come together to develop a framework that works in the context in which we find ourselves. Our communities have become, no matter how small the village you go now, you find that it's heterogeneous in terms of ethnic, religious background. What work 200 years ago will not work.
No. Okay.
People who also are coming into town believe they have a universal right of movement, and you cannot stop me to take me to a traditional ruler before you bring me out to continue my journey. So there are that tension that we must work with.
If communities are evolving more heterogeneously, now that is a problem, isn't it?
No, it's not a problem. It means you have to generate institutions and structures that respond to heterogeneous society rather than homogeneous society. We are holding to homogeneous society. When I hear people talk about state police, community police, that is the mentality they have of a homogeneous society versus others. Rather than
is this applicable to what is happening in Plateau?
Okay, if you ask me, we can
specifically.
We can have 50 programs on Plateau. I've lived in Plateau for 44 years.
No, I'm looking at the heterogeneous community.
No,
now.
it isn't. It isn't. It's a very deep. We're dealing with the symptoms of it. There are contestations that are far deeper over resources, over ownership than the crisis that we have, and they have evolved.
Okay.
In the 90s, 2000s, we were dealing with conflict majorly about authenticity of citizenship of Plateau. And then, of course, in the last 15 years, we've moved also, or we've expanded, compounded with farmer-herder conflict. Yes. And again, this is even compounded by, people say, climate, but it's scarcity, it's resource scarcity. So you find now that in places where people have displaced, communities that people are displaced, the settlers, people actually settle in those places. That means it's like you are signaling that you have been displaced forever. And that is the major, if government is going to address the issue, is that to build that confidence that displacement is temporary. We will resettle you back to your ancestral land. I think if we're really looking for a solution, that's the assurance that government must give, because the people are becoming homeless or lacking even ancestral home in their own home.
Please, I'd like you to if you can just, highlight that again. This last point you raised about giving assurance to people who probably will seem displaced from their ancestral...
Yes, and they are given the impression that they are displaced forever.
Yes.
Because people settle back in the place, take ownership of the place, and they can't go back. And I think that is part of the most dangerous dimension of the Plateau. And that's why the scale also that you are seeing this crisis going on in the place. And you find both sides. Only God knows the number of the sites.
But there was a peace committee set up.
There's a peace committee.
What happened to that committee?
There's a peace committee.
We see escalation of violence now.
Yes, there's a peace commission. Kaduna has a peace commission. Yes. They have this thing. But very often we are using European developed models. I have many of my people in peace, in peace sector. Yes. And I always tell them, once they enter a community, their community never see peace again. Never see peace again.
Okay.
So yes. I think the challenge is, if you have the scale and the duration of conflict that you have, I think 3 states need to be watched. Taraba, Kaduna, Plateau. They've had this long-term internal conflict, which have been weaponized on the basis of religion and ethnicity.
And politics.
Yes. Until these 3 states, we need really to pay attention. If we can solve and we get a model that works in these 3 states, our conflict resolution will make a contribution to the world.
We've just talked, actually, Jume referenced Peace Commission in Kaduna, which was set up, and the fact that, it had helped to, quieten things down. And I also recall that similar commission was set up in Plateau.
In Plateau, yes.
So how do you evaluate, the contribution of these peace commissions to conflict resolution and management?
Yeah, you see, conflict resolution, you have conflict building, resolving, and then sustenance.
Yes.
Yeah. And first and foremost, the issue of trust. If there's a clash between maybe two parties or three parties or various ethnic groups, first we need an element of trust. You want to resolve conflict, are you sincere in what you are going to say? Are you going to be transparent in what you're going to say? So why some of these don't work? They may be there. Why they don't work? Because when there is no trust. If the citizens have trust in those who are involved in managing this crisis, they will adhere to whatever they say. And they themselves too will also ensure that those resolutions that have been agreed upon, they will also implement them and abide by them. Okay, like when after the Civil War, there was this no victor, no vanquished, right? That was the belief that nobody is a winner. Also, that when election after election, they said no celebration. You know, you don't have to celebrate, begin to dance because it has caused some problem. When we now have confidence in each other, we trust each other, then those peace, and then sometimes it goes continuity in governance too. So a governor can come now and dismantle what his predecessor has been doing. That continuity is not there. You know, there must be that governance must be it's a continuum. Yes. It's not just a one spot thing. Yes. You know, it's a continuum. Society is dynamic, and as it evolves, you also develop strategies now to address those issues. You see, like when I read the preamble of the UNESCO preamble, it says, as war begins in the hearts of men, so will the foundation of peace be laid in the hearts of men. You see, you know, one thing like the Prof mentioned, the AOA, National Orientation Agency. It has remember when Jenny Mansa was on. In fact, if you are driving on the road, you see a child, if you throw anything like banana split, you will say that why against the discipline? That consciousness has to be created in us. That this is our country, it's our community. We need to be involved in ensuring that this society is safe and secure. Let's live about sentiment or suspicion. Let's trust each other. And let's work together as a group, like fingers of one hand. Look at they have 5 fingers, they're not of equal size. If you want to carry any object now, no finger will say, no, I'll not carry along. That's a spirit of unity, spirit of oneness. That's what it should be. And even the security agencies themselves too, they need to see them cooperating, working in synergy and collaboration, not competition and rivalry. So these are the things you see, society, when they see people, the way we act and behave, it permeates in society. How do we see each other? Do we trust each other? There's no suspicion. Like now, there's always that suspicion. Ethnic group. If anybody comes to become a governor, or he wants to only his people, the other people now are alienated. If anybody comes to become a president, or only his people, they're alienated. It's not supposed to be so. The community belongs to all of us. The Nigeria belongs to all of us. This is like inclusiveness. Democracy is inclusive and participatory. Nobody should be alienated. Nobody should be excluded. Let's work together as a team, left fingers of one hand, for the good of all of us, to the betterment of the society. If we do all this, Nigeria will be better and safe and secure for all of us.
Indeed, Mr. Lawrence Alobi, you've said it all. Actually, it's a collective responsibility for all Nigerians. Let's bring in Brigadier General Mohammed Kabir Galadanchi. In your final note, how important is it that we have a peace commission, you know, bringing everybody on board to be able, like it is in Kaduna now, we've seen, you know, that peace commission has been working and we've seen sort of, you know, a reduction in violence in Kaduna. And what do you think its place is in other areas of Nigeria where we see communal, you know, conflicts, you know, rearing its head once in a while, and the devastation is unimaginable at times?
Thank you very much. I think the problem is, there is a question I was asking some people. Every day we talk about good governance, good governance. And a lot of people are not explaining what is this good governance. Good governance is a collection of actions and attitudes and decisions of those in government and the citizens of the country. It's not only providing roads, this and that. So one of the important things of good governance is not just because of security situation, for a governor to stand up and say, I am going to buy arms, the police must come under me, this and that. What type of leadership is he providing to the citizens so that they can be able to know their responsibilities for security to be achieved, or responsibilities to government in every aspect of their life. Because until the citizens knows that he has a responsibility to create a condition for security in his small community, we will not have the security in the larger society as we are thinking about it. Therefore, I'm asking for I'm requesting our political leaders to go back and sit back and think about ways and means that they can be able to bring in the citizenry, especially the local leaders, traditional rulers, religious leaders, to be able to, how do I say it, to make the citizens understand their role in the society, so that everybody will be able to contribute something for the security, for his own security and the security of his neighbor, at the end of the day, for the security of all the citizens of Nigeria. That is, I think, my contribution.
Thank you very much, retired Brigadier General Mohammed Kabiru Galadanchi. We do appreciate your contributions. Just before we round off our conversation, Professor A. Tanibi, it was one of my famous, favorite quotes by Albert. It says, there's been a quantum leap in technological, of course, resources in our age, but that unless there is a quantum leap in human relations, unless we learn to live in a new way towards one another, which you talked about, we are bound to be leveled by conflict. And this new way will entail peace building, which is a very critical, stage in the conflict management process. How can government at that local level also help to activate peace building process?
Yeah. Again, I go back to Section 14.2b, that security and welfare of the citizen is the primary duty of government. It didn't say welfare or, and I think, security. And I think you cannot have security without the welfare of citizens being taken into consideration. I grew up at a time when almost any reasonable size of village in northern Nigeria has at least 3 or 4 staff. One of it was a Agric Extension officer that made farming productive. Of course, you had teacher. Then you have the adult education coordinator. Then the formal school teacher. So almost every village of a reasonable size, when I say 50 people, 50 families, you have this. Today, the government is not anywhere in all those places. They are absent. So when people talk of governance space, they are talking of the bush. No, it is not the bush. It's that the human beings are not being served by government. And until we get there, they distort. Actually, modern governance destroy communities that were actually the weaker communities. What happened during election? The politicians go to those communities and create conflict. And
what can we do?
What we can do?
Yes, now.
What we can do is basically to keep telling ourselves what a society is. No society exists by warfare. So a lot of talking is necessary. A lot of value orientation is very important. And a lot of inclusiveness in decision making at the various levels, from village level. I think that inclusiveness is important. When people talk about global level, I say go to any major villages now. You find the people on the right-hand side are saying the left side is dominating. The southern part, in a village now, that is a common thing. So I think once everybody can come into a room and they find that they are recognized and they don't have to suffer some kind of identity that make them feel inferior to others, I think we begin to solve these problems.
Beautiful.
Your final notes on that?
Yeah, my final note is that talk about the general talk about leadership. We must have purposeful leadership and responsible citizens. Citizens who are responsible to the needs of their society, want to contribute, want to serve. Life is all about service. The government, our leaders, that they are there to serve. And my government must have been purposeful, like now the president talk about the renewed hope mantra. How many of us are conscious of that mantra? And what purpose of that mantra? Is it just to solemnize it or to practicalize into action? Our deeds. What can we contribute to the betterment of our society? Rendering service, valuable service, sacrificing, empathy, and compassion. So we think we need to reorientate ourselves. Like I mentioned about the UNESCO preamble, as war begins in the hearts of men, so will the foundation of peace be laid in the hearts of men. There's something about peace. It's the ultimate. Even the dead, the highest you give to me is may so rest in peace. So we have to work for peace, work towards peace, promote peace, and promote the betterment of society.
CP, retired CP and lawyer, Lawrence Alubi. I'd like to thank you very much, sir, for your contribution this morning. Let me also appreciate from our Kaduna studio, Brigadier General Mohammed Kaburu Galadanchi, Public Affairs and Security Analyst and Consultant. Thank you very much, sir, for your contributions. And back here, Professor A. Tanubi Alimeka, Professor of Criminology, thank you. And all that we can say is we keep engaging, we keep listening, we keep hearing, and a win-win law, as we said earlier on, is not, let's do it your way or my way, but of course the best way. So we thank you. We thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Let's join our sports desk for sports now.
Samuel Chukwueze and Stanley Nwambili have arrived at the Super Eagles camp in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. As at the time of filing this report, the duo's arrival increased the number of players in camp to 19. 6 more players are now being expected in the camp. The Super Eagles held their first training session on Wednesday night. Jose Peseira's side will spend around a week in their Abu Dhabi base before travelling to Abidjan for their 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. They are drawn in Group A with hosts Côte d'Ivoire, Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau.
All right, and that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. As always, we do appreciate you. And just for us here, the GMN crew, we use this opportunity to wish Hajia Fatima Abbas Hassan a happy birthday today. GM. That's our GM and, of course, the coordinator of this program. So I am Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak. Bye-bye now. I'll see you tomorrow.
And I am Juma Yusuf. Do have a pleasant day ahead. I'll see you on Monday. Bye.